Hi, I'm Ted Kofi, and this is a video about bunny boilers and dialogue. But first, let's start with why history is important for all our welfare. It's by observing what others have done in the past that we decide what is a good idea or what is a bad idea to repeat. When apartheid ended in South Africa, they undertook this exercise called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Many people thought that it was a great success, though it wasn't universal, but most people, I would think, thought that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was a great idea because it allowed those who'd experienced the most egregious impacts of apartheid to speak their experience. It also allowed those who had perpetrated sometimes pretty heinous atrocities to speak or confess what they'd done and ask for amnesty for those things. The purpose being, by venting the truth, you safely allow in a quasi-judicial process all the negativity of the past to be vented. And what's the opposite of that? The opposite of that is hiding the truth, pretending it never happened. And the consequences of that are even more toxic than when the truth is out and acknowledged by all parties. It's thought that without having those hundreds of sessions of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, South Africa, after decades of apartheid, could never have safely transitioned without massive conflict into the new democracy it became. Now, when military demolition people lay explosives, there's a process called tamping. Military experts who are watching this video, by all means weigh in with your comments beneath. But when you put pressure on the explosive or cover the explosive, when the explosive is detonated, the explosive force with which it's released is infinitely greater. Of course, that means it has greater destructive force to demolish whatever it is that you're trying to demolish. And that's what not having the Truth and Reconciliation Commission would have done. It would have released a lot of pent-up energy which had been tamped down in a way which nobody could control. So what does this mean for Britain today? The equivalent of truth and reconciliation in daily life, in corporate life, in social life is very simple. The equivalent of it is free speech. When I say free speech, of course, people died at Normandy so that you and I could speak freely today. Well, we got free speech to a huge degree. But it is within the areas of social speech that the censorship is, I would say, just as tough as wartime censorship. There are certain things which in British society nobody dares talk about, and one of them is race. So the effect of that is to tamp down the negative experiences many people have had, and I've already explained the consequences of undirected, misdirected, random explosions of negativity. Everybody gets hurt. Even the people who the negativity may be, or who the explosion may be coming from, even they get hurt. But that's not the point. The point is, it is a lose-lose scenario for all of society. There's another consideration here. I believe after what they'd been through in South Africa, they were serious about finding solutions. Because they were serious, they had to have those commissions that they held, hundreds of meetings for people to talk about their experiences. The converse of that is if they hadn't had those commissions, it would have implied that they weren't really about wanting to move on. And that is the biggest difficulty for British society today. When it comes to the matter of race, people just roll their eyes and apply the social sanctions. It's impolite to talk about it. Everybody gets very uncomfortable. Everybody sometimes pretends it's not happening. Well, of course, that depends who you are. If you're the person who doesn't experience racial inequality, you can continue to behave like that. But all that you're doing is tamping down the explosive, which, as sure as night follows day, will explode. And if you want a recent example, look at what's happening in America. The policemen have been killing African Americans, apparently with impunity, for decades. Before that, it was the lynchings. Now, something has happened, because in all of my life, following the news in America, a breaking point has been reached where people are saying, actually, we're not going to wear this anymore. And it has been such a global phenomenon that those Black Lives Matters demonstrations took place in 50 countries. Now, this can be looked at on a personal level, vis-a-vis the integrity of the individuals who are caught up in this thing. And if you extend out from that on a societal level, vis-a-vis the integrity of the society in which these things are happening. Of course, there's a political battle royale being fought right now, basically between the positions of the incumbent Donald Trump, president number 45 of the United States, and the contender, Biden, who would suggest a different way of handling the BLM demonstrations which are going on quite strongly even now. So there we have it. I remember the movie Fatal Attraction, which I think, by the way, is a compulsory watch for any male person who hits the age of 16. They need to watch Fatal Attraction. And I won't spoil it because it's quite an old movie. But many young people today haven't watched Fatal Attraction, starring Michael Douglas and Glenn Close. Absolutely ripping performances by both of them. And the result hinged on one of those two parties not being able to tell their partner the truth. The rest of the movie is history, by all means. This is not a plug for a movie, but it's the human interactions that take place and the escalation of the consequences as a result of people lying that, in a dramatic context, explains so well what can happen when truth and reconciliation does not take place. As I said, in daily life, it's about creating an environment in which people can speak their truth. And everybody benefits, because without that opportunity, the energy will vent anyway, but it'll vent in ways which are much more difficult to control. Something to think about.